everybody, how's it going? Stoutman coming back at you once again, and today we're here to talk about some Blu-rays. Of course, it's time to talk about Blu-rays again because I can't stop buying Blu-rays because I have an issue. But that being said, I also have an issue with GoHastings, which is to say that I can't stop shopping with them because I keep getting good deals. I just got an order off of GoHastings, right? But I made another purchase like right after it because there was another really good sale. That sale was like either 30 or 40% off, and this one was a full 50% off of everything used. So because of that, I couldn't say no. I couldn't not make a purchase. I had to take advantage of that. It's not every day that even they go that far. So, I had to do it. And honestly, I made a good decision on that front because everything I got came to a total of $450 each. So it was about, I think it was like $36 for 8 titles on Blu-ray, and 36 divided by 8 is 450. So 450 shipped to my house. Bam. I'm cool with that, even though one of them came in Blockbuster previous rental case. But it's still a movie that I really love and I wanted to have in my collection. So I said, what the hell? And, I didn't even care that it came in this case because I'm planning to get some extra cases anyways, some like legit Blu-ray cases to make up for some Blu-ray movies that I have that are not in proper Blu-ray cases or are in broken Blu-ray cases. So with that said, let's show you Lady in the Water. Now, I know a lot of people do not like this movie. I know, because it's a movie from M. Night Shyamalan. I understand, right? I get that it's very popular to hate on M. Night Shyamalan. I get that a lot of people don't like his movies. I get that after he did the same thing in terms of movies for like 3 or 4 movies in a row, or the same style of movie, I guess you could say, for 3 or 4 movies in a row, or at least that was the way that people felt about it, that they were getting sick and tired of the same old shtick. I understand. I get it, alright? But I don't care because at the time that this movie came out, which was 2007, I believe, I went to see it in theaters and I absolutely fucking loved it. I didn't even know it was coming out until I saw it, and then when I went to the theater, and I said, it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and I like his movies every now and then. I don't necessarily like everything that he's done, even at that point, but I do like some of them, so I'll give him a chance, especially since it looks like an interesting story. And honestly, it was a very interesting story. It was honestly something I was not really expecting. So I was really happy with Lady in the Water, and I actually owned it on DVD for quite a while until I sold the DVD because I was going to pick up the Blu-ray. Never bothered to pick up the Blu-ray because it was too fucking costly. It was too expensive for my cheap ass. So, took me a while, but I finally got it here on Blu-ray for $4.50. I'm sure it was originally sold at Blockbuster for $4 flat. But, well, what are you going to do? All that really matters is that I got the Blu-ray here. And yes, it's a Blockbuster case. Like I said, I'm going to be putting this in a regular traditional case, and that will do the trick for me. That's all I got to do. It comes with the original artwork here in the Blockbuster case. It's just that you have to put it into a real Blu-ray case, and that's all you got to do. And it's the same damn thing. And there are a few little smudges here and there on the disc, but nothing that I would be upset about. Nothing that's going to keep it from being able to, watch it. So that wasn't the only kind of disappointment I got in terms of movies that I picked up here, and honestly in terms of the quality of the cases. Now at least this one came in a real case, but there was some issues with the case itself. Let's just go ahead and show you. I got Bad Milo here on Blu-ray. The first time I bought this, yes, I've already bought it before. I bought it for my good friend Sean Zarin Isaac, and then I sent that to him because I wanted him to be able to see it. At the time, it was still available on Netflix, and that's where I had seen it. So I wasn't too concerned about not being able to see it for a while or anytime soon or anything like that. So I wasn't really interested in picking it up right away again for myself. So when I saw this for what amounted to be $4.50, you damn skippy, I'm gonna pick that up. That's a great freaking deal. Unfortunately, as you can see in the back of the case, this like slice here on the back of the case, it didn't come from a well-loved home. It was not well-loved, did not come from a happy home. One of the reasons you see those kinds of slashes that kind of dent into the artwork in the back there is because of this. Because all it takes is a good squeeze or a good, accidental whatever the heck caused this, and everything is damaged there. So, again, thank you to the studios who put these stupid freaking things out there. I don't know about you, but I'm freaking tired of them. And my tablet here is making noise from, no doubt, from Facebook. Yep, definitely from Facebook. Anyway, you know that I don't have any love lost for for these eco cases. These are the worst. I hate them. But honestly, it could be a case where it wasn't originally in this, And the reason I want to believe that is because it's a Magnet release, and I know Magnet is, at least they have really good taste in movies. Almost everything they put out is really good. But, yeah, it's just too bad it had to come in this crappy little eco case. Again, I'll probably just switch out the case like I'm going to with Lady in the Water with something better. I'm going to get better cases and replace a lot of my either damaged cases or, blockbuster cases or whatever that I have for picking up used Blu-rays in the past. And that'll be that when that happens. I don't know when I'm going to get around to that. Probably sometime next month, hopefully. The next thing I picked up is something that I've been waiting for the right price on, because I watched it and I liked it, but it wasn't something that I loved immediately. It's definitely like an interesting movie that, you'll think about every now and then and maybe want to watch every now and then, but won't necessarily have access to on all the streaming services, like a lot of movies that you can probably think of off the top of your head, This one is not like that, at least not to my knowledge. So I wanted to make sure that I had it in my collection for those times when I did want to watch it, and that would be 9, the Tim Burton produced movie 9. Let's see here. Directed by Shane Acker, story by Shane Acker. Yeah, I would say this is probably produced. Produced by Tim Burton. Yes, all I had to do was look at the cover, and it's right freaking there. It was produced by Tim Burton. Thank you. If you haven't seen 9, then I highly recommend it, but I also would throw a word of caution in there and say that it's definitely not your typical animated feature. It feels to me a lot more like... It reminds me a lot of a Don Bluth movie. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean the animation style. I don't necessarily mean the way that it's written or anything like that. I mean that the style of the movie. The very, not in... It doesn't really play well against the other big budget movies that are out there, the other big budget animated films out there. It's definitely more of a subversive animated film. And I like that about it, but I also, there are certain aspects of it that I didn't think were too terribly entertaining. So it's definitely not one that you are going to want to watch all the time, but it's one I wanted in my collection. So I picked it up for $4.50. That was my price point. I was looking for a sub $5 price point on that, and I got it. Next up, we have a great movie from the Coen brothers, A Serious Man. The first time I saw this was actually during a Jewish American literature class. We were watching this movie to get us, like, it was the first day of class, and we were watching this movie to get a sense of what Jewish American writing was like, at least in terms of Jewish American writing for film. And yeah, this is a great movie. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I've been wanting to watch it again for quite a while now because, there are a lot of memorable scenes in it and whatnot. And of course, the Coen brothers feels like they can do no wrong because honestly, most, if not all, of what they put out is excellent. So yeah, A Serious Man, very good movie. Very happy with the price I paid for it. Not necessarily that they don't deserve more, mind you, but just that, Coen Brothers, you always have the chance. You always run the chance that their movie's going to get picked up by Criterion or by some other, uh, you know, some other label like that, and they're going to put out a lavish version of it, and then your old crappy version that was put out by the studios isn't really the good version to have anymore, and it's not worth very much anymore. And this is a case where this movie is already low in price, right? It's already between the $5 and $8 price point wherever you look for it, typically. But that's why I didn't necessarily want to pay too much for it because I figured Coen Brothers movie, there's a very good chance, because it's a Coen Brothers movie, that it'll probably get released on something like Criterion, and if it gets released on Criterion, then I'm going to want that, and I'm not going to want to pay too much to have the other release. So, there you go. Because Criterion costs a lot of money, all right? And if you're going to be willing to pay $20 to $40 for a Criterion, then you don't want to pay too much for the previous version of it, That's all I'm saying here. Next up, we have The Brothers Bloom from director Ryan Johnson. I believe that's how you pronounce it. He is also going to be directing the next, or not the next Star Wars movie, but Star Wars Episode 8, I believe. And so, being a fan of Brick, having loved Brick so much, and having never seen this, I had to check it out because this is one I've been seeing on the store shelves for quite a while. Even before I knew about Brick, even before I knew about this director at all, I saw this on store shelves and I was intrigued, but not intrigued enough to check it out, right? So now that I know who the director is, and now that he's becoming more notable and all that stuff, I am like, yeah, I want to check this out. I want to watch this because I've waited too goddamn long to watch it, so it's time. It is time to finally check out The Brothers Bloom. And there hasn't been a lot of talk about this one, but I still have high hopes for it to be, at least somewhat entertaining. The last three here came in slipcovers, and I was very happy to see that because it's not every day that you get a used movie with the slipcover. The first one here, there's probably a reason for that because it's a fairly new release. But the slipcover for this release, as Brandon was telling me, is apparently very rare, or it's not as easy to come by anymore because there were very limited copies of it made. So I'm very happy to have gotten it, even if there are a few small little scratches on here or whatnot. But yeah. The Voices here, starring Ryan Reynolds. This is a pre-Deadpool movie, of course, because Deadpool just came out. But if you want to see like a raunchy kind of a fucking dark comedy from Ryan Reynolds before he did Deadpool, then The Voices is definitely something to check out. It's funny in parts and it's surreal in other parts, and it's both it's both parts disturbing and funny. It's the perfect dark comedy, I would say. I won't say it's without. I won't say it's without flaw because there are a few flaws that we noted. I was watching this with Brandon the first time I saw it. There were a few flaws that we noted when we first watched it, but nothing that really stood out as being a huge freaking problem. So, uh, I was actually quite impressed with it. It's definitely one of those movies that kind of sticks with you in a way. So I wanted to pick it up, especially when I saw it for $4 freaking with the slipcover, no doubt, no less. That's just a really good deal, no matter how you look at it. So yeah, sadly, it came in one of these cases. But at least if you've got that slipcover here to protect it, that it isn't as much of a problem then. It's still to me annoying, but whatever, because then when you squeeze it, you're not going to damage the freaking artwork underneath. Don't squeeze your slipcovers, kids. Don't do it. Because when you squeeze your slipcovers, this is the kind of thing that happens. This is The Guest. I did a Netflix picks on this movie late last year. I don't know exactly when. I don't remember when, but it was definitely late last year. And I absolutely loved this movie. I didn't think I was going to. Brandon had to really drag me into actually watching it, and when I did, I was just like blown away by how good it was. This is like John Carpenter level good, in his prime kind of good movie here. But what I was saying about the slipcover here is if you look closely, there's a little bend there. At least it came with the slipcover, but yeah, if you're not careful with slipcovers, they can get damaged like that. But if you look on the side here, embossed lettering on both sides, very nice. And yeah, I'm very happy to have this, especially for under $5, all things considered. I was hoping this would catch on more than it has, but what are you going to do? It's a freaking fantastic movie. If you're a fan of anything like any 80s style movie, then you owe it to yourself to check this out. 80s action, right freaking here, alright? This is fucking glorious. Just check it out. Trust me. It's on Netflix. I think it's still on Netflix. If it is, then watch it. And last but not least, I finally picked up Field of Dreams here on Blu-ray. Again, this is when I was looking for a fairly decent price on, and well, you can't beat $4.50. That's a pretty damn good price. So $4.50 for Field of Dreams, and it came with the slipcover. Unfortunately, this slipcover is all like, it's got the silver kind of shine to it, the sheen to it, I would say. And on at least one side of that, the silver is kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of flecking off a little bit there. Well, whether or not you can tell, it got flecked off somewhere in the process, and well, it just doesn't look too good, right? But I don't really care about that. What I mostly cared about was the movie, and the movie actually came in a nice sturdy case right here. So yeah, very happy with that. Very happy to finally have this in my collection, because this is one of those movies. I'm a baseball fan, and I have a bunch of baseball movies in my collection, but I've been waiting to pick this one up because I haven't found the price I wanted to pay for it right yet. So I've been waiting until until I saw a price point that I was happy with, and this I was more than happy with. So yeah, this is one that every now and then I think back about and I want to watch, because it's not just a baseball movie, it's not just a sports movie. There's like some kind of like fantasy sci-fi elements to it, and on top of that, there's this one scene, the one scene that really sticks out to me and is like the most memorable for me in Field of Dreams. which a lot of people are not going to agree with. A lot of people are going to be like, wait, that's the one that you think of the most? Is the scene when they're in the school fighting that lady who's trying to like tell the school to like censor the words of these books, right? Essentially, fucking book burners, and they're speaking out against them, and it's such a notable scene to me because in the 80s, like if you're into like human geography at all, like I am, in the 80s, there was this thing happening where all these either they were originally from rural communities or they were moving to rural communities for their own reasons, kind of like the early hipsters, I would say, of the world, but more the early version of modern day hipsters, right? Moving out to the country to start farming because that's the hip thing to do or whatever. Like you've seen a few shows on it in the past 5 to 10 years or whatever, and it shouldn't be too new of an idea to see that nowadays. But in the 80s, things like that were happening as well. All these kids were getting out of school in their 20s and 30s and moving out into more rural areas, and you were starting to see like a change in the political sphere and whatnot and all the things that were happening in those areas, because for the longest time those small towns were places where tradition ruled all, and so it was traditionally a conservative area, but it became much less conservative, which again you can see stuff like that, and the result of things like that from a movie like Slacker, which came out in the 90s. I think it was early 90s on that one, I think. It might have actually been 80s, but I think it was 90s. And that movie is all about like this hipster part of, part of, I don't know if it's necessarily a part, but it's a hipster area in Austin, Texas, which Texas is traditionally a conservative area, but if you know anything about Austin, Texas, it's become more of a liberal area over the past 20, 30, 40 years because of things like that. And it was happening then, right? And it's like you're seeing it more and more frequently now, maybe, but this kind of thing was really starting to come to fruition. This kind of movement from the city out to the more rural areas of more liberal people to those areas. I don't know why I pointed at Kevin Costner and said liberal people, but his character and his wife's character in particular represent a more liberal character, right? And people like that were moving out into the suburbs, and so you would maybe see things like that. You would maybe see things like somebody going to a school and protesting the burning of a book or the censoring of a book because they don't agree with censorship because they're more liberal people, and all the other people in town are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because all the other people in town have been living there for forever, and like, at that time a yuppie moving out into the middle of nowhere was a new thing, and it was something to be frowned upon. You also see some of that kind of stuff in Funny Farm and in Arachnophobia. I mean, it wasn't a new thing back then. Well, it was a new thing back then, but it wasn't something that nobody knew about, right? And it's just a subject of interest to me because you're still seeing the repercussions of that today. If you look at a candidate like Bernie Sanders, who very much did the same kind of thing. The reason he became so successful in a town that would have, a rural town, mind you, in Vermont, that would have otherwise voted conservative was because of things like that. And if that hadn't happened, he wouldn't be running for president today. That was one of the catalysts that sent him to where he is now, right? And I'm not telling anybody who to vote for or anything. I'm just bringing this up as kind of like a interesting little political thing that you can catch on to from things like Field of Dreams, a little human geography kind of thing, noting how people of a certain political belief moved from one area to another in those early 80s or mid to late 80s, early 90s, I should say, time period, right? So yeah, it's just interesting to see that because most people still think of those rural areas as mostly conservative, and for the most part, they are correct. But, liberal people have been seeping into those areas since the 80s. And these movies are kind of time capsules. These scenes in these movies are time capsules that call back to that to remind you, like, yeah, that actually did happen back then. So not only is it a time capsule in that it, has some elements of like the ethereal going on in this movie, with like possibly ghosts or whatnot happening in here in this movie. Um, not only is that going on, but you're also seeing, you know, some of what's going on in the rest of the world, in the real world. And really, I mean, this is just a great time capsule for that. That's one of the biggest reasons that I love this movie. When I look at a sports movie, I look at it and I want a sports movie to be more than just a sports movie. I want it to be more than just talking about sports, doing whatever with sports. I want it to be focusing on something else. So I guess I would say, multi-genre sports movies. I don't typically like sports movies that are all about sports and nothing else. I want a sports movie that can actually tell like a deep and engrossing story that doesn't just have to do with sports. So, yeah. Field of Dreams is very good at that. Very happy to have it in my collection now for $4.50. Damn good price, eh? So yeah, this is the stack of movies that I picked up. Sorry about that. So the stack of movies that I picked up from GoHastings for a total of $36. Damn good deal. Anyways, that'll just about do it for me today. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. Peace.